Rain poured over the tall glass building of Sterling Innovations early in the morning. The lobby shone like a mirror, reflecting lights from the ceiling. Lena Brooks, the janitor, pushed her mop quietly over the marble floor. She liked mornings when no one paid her any attention. The quiet moments gave her time to hum little tunes that made her work lighter. Her hair was tied in a neat ponytail, and her old sneakers squeaked gently as she moved between the long hallway and the large windows. On the top floor, CEO Ethan Cole sat behind a polished desk, frustrated. The big meeting was about to start, and the giant screen in his boardroom refused to show the company presentation. His tie was perfectly straight, but his patience was not. His voice, deep and sharp, echoed through the room. The assistant and the technical staff checked wires and buttons, but the screen stayed blank. Every tick of the clock seemed to mock him. When Lena walked by the open door of the boardroom, she noticed the crowd of people staring at the dead screen. She stepped quietly closer, curious. One of the assistants bumped into her while rushing to get another cable. Ethan turned at the sound, his eyes landing on Lena. "What are you doing here?" he asked in a cold voice that froze the air. Lena tightened her grip on the mop. "Just cleaning, sir." He looked her up and down and gave a small half-smile that was more insult than kindness. "Since you seem to have free time, maybe you can fix the screen. If you can fix this, I'll give you $100 million. The room filled with forced laughter. The board members smiled the way people do when they want to please a powerful man. Lena's cheeks turned red, but her eyes did not lower. There was something calm in her expression. She did not speak. She only nodded once and went back to her work. Ethan forgot about the scene after the meeting started, but as the minutes passed, his thoughts kept returning to her steady look. He was used to people fawning over his power. Most bowed their heads the moment he raised his voice. That janitor had not looked afraid or angry. She had looked thoughtful, maybe even amused, as if she knew something he did not. The meeting ended without progress. The system stayed broken, and the tech team promised to repair it by the next day. Ethan left the office early, his mind still heavy with irritation. Downstairs, Lena finished her shift quietly. The rain outside had stopped, and the sky carried the fading light of afternoon. Before she left, she looked once more at the screen that everyone had given up on. A simple mistake, she thought, noticing the small code line flashing on the corner. She placed her cleaning tools aside, opened her old laptop that she carried in her bag, and connected it to the system port. Her fingers moved with surprising ease. In less than 10 minutes, the system restarted smoothly and the presentation appeared clear on the giant screen. She smiled softly, shut her laptop, and returned to wipe a small mark on the conference table before locking up and heading home. The next morning arrived bright and warm. Ethan came in early, as usual, his coffee steaming on the desk. When he turned toward the boardroom, he froze. The screen was on, the system working perfectly. The presentation that had refused to open now glowed clearly across the glass walls. He called his assistant immediately. "Who fixed this?" he asked. "No one from the tech team was here overnight," she said. "Maybe one of the cleaning staff noticed something." Ethan frowned. "Get me the security footage." He watched the video in silence. Lena appeared on the screen, calm and focused, typing quickly on her small laptop. No hesitation, no struggle. She worked like someone who had done this 1,000 times before. After she finished, she simply smiled to herself and left. The camera caught her walking down the hallway, the quiet figure everyone ignored. Ethan stared at the frozen image of her on the screen for a long moment. He was not sure what surprised him more, that she had repaired what his expensive team could not, or that she had done it without telling anyone. For the first time in years, he felt a small pull of curiosity that reached deeper than pride or power. When the office began to fill with chatter, Ethan shut down the security monitor and leaned back in his chair. The sound of distant laughter from his staff felt dull now. Somewhere deep inside him, a thought whispered, small but persistent. Maybe not everyone in his building was what they seemed, and maybe, just maybe, the world was planning to show him something he had long forgotten how to see. The morning buzz at Sterling Innovations filled the air with the sound of keyboards, phones, and quick footsteps. Ethan Cole walked through the office with his usual calm, but his mind was far from the numbers and charts on his tablet. His thoughts kept circling back to the security footage from the night before. Every time he remembered the image of Lena fixing the screen with quiet skill, something inside him shifted. He had met countless experts and engineers who spent years proving their brilliance to him, yet a woman in worn sneakers and an old uniform had done what they could not. The thought unsettled him. It also intrigued him. Lena Brooks arrived for her shift an hour later than the executives, as always. She carried her mop and small cleaning cart through the halls without rush or complaint. She greeted the reception staff with a smile, unaware that the CEO was waiting for her on the top floor. Ethan had already ordered his assistant to send her up. The assistant seemed uncertain. Calling a janitor to the top floor was unusual. People would talk. Ethan did not care. He wanted answers. When Lena stepped off the elevator, she looked calm but alert. Her work clothes were neat, her hands still faintly wet from washing floors. Ethan stood near the wide windows that framed the city, the skyline shining behind him like a polished mirror. "Thank you for coming," he said. Lena nodded lightly. "Is there a cleaning issue on this floor, sir?" Ethan turned to face her properly. "No. I watched the security video from last night. You fixed the presentation system." She nodded again, her face unreadable. "Yes. It was a small problem in the code, nothing serious." He frowned. "Nothing serious. My technical team said it would take a full day to diagnose that problem. They might have overthought it," Lena said in a steady voice. "It just needed someone to look carefully at the error." Ethan studied her face. There was no pride in her words, only truth. She seemed uncomfortable standing in front of his expensive desk, but she did not hide or stutter. He leaned against the edge of the table. "Where did you learn to handle that kind of system?" Lena hesitated for the first time. "I used to work with computers before I took this job." "Before?" he asked. "At another company." She looked down at her fingers, then back up. "Yes, I was a systems engineer, but life changed. I needed something steady while I sorted things out." Ethan expected a long story or excuses, but she did not go on. Her honesty was simple and strong. He realized she was not asking for sympathy. She was simply telling him how things stood. He found himself at a loss. Ethan Cole was known for quick decisions and sharp commands, yet now words felt heavy on his tongue. "You could have told someone," he said finally. "You could have taken credit for fixing the system." "I did not fix it for praise," she said. "The meeting was important. I saw a problem and solved it. That was enough." Ethan tried to read her face, but her calm made him uneasy. Power had always made people nervous around him, yet she stood like someone who saw straight through his attitude. "Do you always solve problems quietly like that?" he asked. Lena's lips lifted in a small smile. "Only when people throw challenges at me for $100 million. For a second, Ethan almost laughed, but the sound came out awkward. He walked to the window, hands in his pockets. The city stretched below, full of life that never bowed to anyone. He realized how rarely he spoke to his staff beyond quick orders, did not know their faces, their dreams, or their worries. "Do you ever miss engineering?" he asked. Lena gave a small shrug. "Sometimes I miss building things. But I have learned to build peace in small spaces too. Work is work. It is what I make of it." Her answer touched him in a place he did not know was still open. He had built his empire on control, not peace. Everything in his life depended on precision and performance. Peace sounded like a luxury he could not afford, yet this woman found it while mopping the floors of his building. Ethan watched her leave soon after. As the elevator doors closed, he remained still. That brief meeting had shaken something quiet awake inside him. The proud walls he carried around himself had cracked, and through the thin lines of light he could see a truth he had long ignored. Downstairs, Lena returned to her duties, as if nothing had happened. She scrubbed the glass doors, cleaned the floors, and greeted her coworkers with her calm smile. But inside she felt changed too, for reasons she could not name. She sensed that Ethan Cole would not forget her. Later that evening, Ethan sat alone in his office, long after everyone else had gone home. He stared at the reflection of his face in the dark window and thought of Lena Says, eyes steady, clear, unafraid. For years he had chased success as if it were the only goal that mattered. One quiet woman had made him question everything he believed about power and worth. Somewhere deep in the silent building, A song from a janitor's small radio played faintly, steady as a heartbeat, carrying through the empty halls of glass and steel. Ethan listened from afar, not realizing how much he needed that sound to remind him what being human really meant. Ethan Cole did not sleep well after that meeting with Lena Brooks. He lay awake in his large apartment, watching the city lights through the wide windows. All night his mind played the same pictures again and again. Lena's calm face, her quiet confidence, the way she had stood without fear in front of him. It was strange. No one ever looked at him that way. People at work always tried to please him, but she had looked at him like an equal. That single look kept following him. The next day he came to the office early. He tried to bury himself in reports and new proposals, but his thoughts drifted back each time. He told himself it was just curiosity. Perhaps he only wanted to know where she came from and what had brought her there. Still, his curiosity carried a weight he could not explain. The day stretched into long hours of meetings. By evening, the sky outside turned a deep pink. Most workers had already gone home, but Lena was still cleaning near the conference hall. When she saw Ethan passing, she gave a respectful nod and continued wiping the floor. He paused and spoke before his thoughts could stop him. "Lena," he called in a soft tone. She looked up, surprised that he remembered her name. "Yes, sir. Do you have a few minutes?" he asked. She placed the mop against the wall and nodded. He motioned her to follow him into the small lounge behind the office. It was not grand like his meeting room, but warm and quiet. Ethan sat near the window while she stood by the door, unsure what he wanted. He began slowly. "You said yesterday that you used to work as an engineer. What happened?" Lena took a deep breath before answering. "I worked at a small software company in Ohio. I liked the job. I worked hard, but then the company closed. I had to care for my mother, who was sick that time. I could not move to another city, so I took whatever job I could find here." Her voice was simple and direct, but beneath it was a faint sadness. Ethan listened without interrupting. He saw how her hands fidgeted for a moment before she folded them quietly in her lap. "You left a good career behind," he said softly. "I had to," she replied. "Sometimes life asks us to start again. There is no shame in that." Ethan nodded, though his own heart felt heavy. He thought of his own father, who had lost his business years ago. Ethan was young then, and had promised himself he would never fall again. Built walls around his life, walls made of power and success, but those walls had slowly turned into caves of loneliness. "You remind me of someone," he said finally. "My father. He never gave up, no matter what hit him." Lena smiled gently. "Then he must be proud of you. You built something strong." He looked out the window at the city lights starting to flicker. "Strong, maybe, but I also lost something while building it. I lost the feeling of being close to people." For a while, neither of them spoke. The silence was not heavy, just peaceful. The air between them felt strange, like two sides of the same story meeting in the middle. Ethan turned toward her and said, "You know, I was wrong to mock you. That was cruel. I suppose I forgot what real work looks like." Lena's eyes softened. People forget. What matters is what they remember next. He liked that answer. It made him feel seen in a way that even his closest advisors never managed. Before that moment, he had always thought kindness was weakness, but here it felt like a kind of strength. As the evening stretched, he learned small things about her. She lived in a small rented room across the river. She liked reading short stories and volunteering at a shelter. She had no grand dreams now, only the wish to live peacefully. Ethan listened, wondering when was the last time he had spoken of life instead of profit margins or targets. When Lena finally stood to leave, Ethan said, "If you ever miss working on systems, tell me. We have smaller projects that could use someone like you." She smiled politely. "Thank you, but I am fine where I am. Some people need their floors clean more than your machines need me." He could not help but smile back. As she left, he realized she meant her words. She was content in a way he could never imagine. That night, he did not open his laptop. He stood at his window watching the quiet city again. He thought of Lena walking home, perhaps carrying her small bag and her old laptop. In her eyes, he had seen something different from all the success he had ever known. It was dignity mixed with peace. Something in that mix began to stir within him, something he had not felt in years. At that moment, Ethan understood that meeting her was not simple chance. It was the start of something that might fix the emptiness he had carried for too long. He just did not know how deep that change was about to go. Weeks passed quietly inside Sterling Innovations. The rain that once beat against the windows had given way to clear skies and long, bright days. Yet something new hung in the air. Something small but steady, like the hum of a tune that would not fade. Ethan Cole felt the change every time he walked through the halls. His sharp eyes noticed things he had never looked at before. The smiles of his workers, quiet teamwork that kept everything running. And often, the quiet figure of Lena Brooks, moving through the building with her mop and her calm presence. He had started finding reasons to talk to her, though he would never admit it. One day it was about the cleanliness of the conference floor, another day about a minor issue with the computer system. Each time she answered with the same calm voice, no fear, no excitement, just truth. Sometimes their short talks stretched into longer moments, where business slipped into personal stories without either of them planning it. One morning, Ethan came down from his office earlier than usual. He saw Lena kneeling near the reception desk, helping a new janitor fix the handle on a cleaning bucket. She showed patience and skill, speaking with careful words. Ethan stood a few steps away, watching how she guided the young worker gently instead of scolding him. When she looked up and saw him, she smiled as if it was the most normal thing to see the CEO standing by the cleaning supplies. "Good morning, sir," she said. "Good morning," Ethan replied. "You are the most efficient manager in this building, though your department is not listed yet." She laughed softly. "I manage dirt and broken buckets. That is enough for now." Ethan watched her for a moment before saying, "I am learning that being enough is not a small thing." Her eyes met his. "No, it is not." That short exchange stayed with him all day. He had spent years chasing bigger goals and louder victories, yet this simple woman seemed to carry peace where he carried tension. In the quiet of his office, he began to wonder what kind of life he would have lived if he had chosen peace first instead of power. Around the same days, Lena noticed that Ethan's tone toward his employees was changing. His voice had grown gentler, his anger shorter, his eyes more understanding. People in the building whispered that perhaps he had softened. Some laughed about it, but others liked the new behavior. It made the place feel less cold. One evening, after a long day dealing with investors, Ethan came downstairs to get some air. The janitorial staff had already started cleaning for the night. He saw Lena sitting near the lobby door with a cup of coffee, taking a short rest. She looked tired but peaceful. He walked up to her and asked, "Mind if I sit here?" She nodded.
Art?
"It is your building." "Maybe," he said. "But it feels less mine these days." They sat side by side, watching the reflection of the city lights on the wet street. For a long while, neither spoke. The silence between them no longer felt strange. It felt like resting after a long climb. Ethan broke the silence. "You volunteer at a shelter on weekends, right?" Lena sipped her coffee before answering. "Yes, there is a small program where we teach children some basic computer lessons. It helps them build confidence." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "You still use your old skills to help others." She nodded. "It is not about big systems. It is about showing them that they can solve problems on their own." Ethan looked thoughtful. "I wish someone had taught me that long ago. I had been solving problems for years but never learned peace from it." Lena turned to him and said, "Maybe it is not too late. You only notice what is missing when you are ready to find it." Something in those words hit him deeply. He wanted to ask her more, but before he could, her phone buzzed softly. It was a message from the shelter. She stood up and said she needed to go early to prepare lessons for the children. He nodded, hiding his disappointment. "Good night, Mr. Cole," she said politely. "Good night, Lena," he replied, his voice quieter than before. After she left, Ethan stayed seated for a while. He looked at the glowing building name outside and thought about what it truly stood for. He had built it on ambition and control, but maybe that was not enough anymore. Something about Lena's calm way of moving through life made him want to change. Later that week, Ethan sent a quiet donation to the shelter where Lena worked. He did not sign his name, but when Lena arrived there the next weekend, she found new computers waiting for the children. She smiled to herself, knowing exactly who had sent them but saying nothing. That evening, as she taught the children how to type their names, she felt a strange warmth inside, as if invisible strings were connecting her life to another's far above the glass towers. Somewhere high in his office, Ethan looked out over the same city and felt that same pull. It was gentle but firm, a thread of connection between two very different worlds that somehow recognized each other in silence. The month rolled by in a soft rhythm. Sterling Innovations seemed brighter than before, though nothing in its walls had changed except the way people felt. Ethan Cole still held meetings, made deals, and signed reports, but something different lived in his steps now. His eyes did not only see numbers and results, they also noticed faces and effort. Every time he saw Lena Brooks moving through the halls, he felt that quiet reminder that there was more to strength than control. One afternoon, a storm hit the city. The windows of the tall building shivered under the wind. Ethan stood in his office, looking at the gray streets below. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and within minutes, the building systems began to fail one by one. The temperature shift alarm went off, and the security panels flashed red. The network team rushed to fix it, but nothing worked. It was too sudden, too deep. Complete system shut down. Lena was on the lower floor when she saw people running up and down, panicked. She heard the faint ringing of the alarm and the confused voices of workers. From the buzz of words, she caught one sentence that caught her full attention. The company's server was failing, and the backups were locking out access. Ethan was still in his office when she arrived. He turned as she stepped in, rain dripping from the end of her hair where she had run in from the lower floors. "Sir, the main system crashed." "The team cannot log into the control lines," she said, breathing quickly. "I know," Ethan replied, clearly frustrated. "I brought the best staff in the city, and they cannot fix it." Lena looked at the flashing screen and stepped closer. "It is not a normal failure," she said simply. Ethan crossed his arms. "You think you can handle it again?" She looked at him calmly. "Let me try. I'll not break it further." Her quiet tone made him pause. Without another word, he moved aside. She sat at his desk and connected her old laptop again. Her fingers moved quickly, her mind sharp despite the tension. The hum of the machines filled the room as she typed commands, cross-checked the code, and bypassed blocks carefully. Minutes stretched, but the sound of the alarms slowly stopped one after another. The red signals blinked fewer times, and finally, the main screen restarted. The Sterling Innovations logo appeared again, clear and bright. Ethan exhaled, almost forgetting he had been holding his breath. Lena leaned back a little, wiping a small line of sweat from her forehead. "How did you do that?" he asked, his voice full of energy now. "It was a security fault built into the old system," she explained. "I remembered the pattern. I saw it before in an earlier version from years ago." He stared at her as the control panel flashed new green signals. "Years ago? You know this system better than my developers?" She smiled faintly. "I helped design a part of it before your company bought it." Ethan blinked. "You what?" Eyes met his with that same calm light. "Before everything changed in my life, I worked with a small firm that sold a design to larger companies. One of them was Sterling Innovations. I wrote some of the early lines of code that this company still uses." He walked closer, astonished. "So you have been here all this time, cleaning floors in a building, running your own creation?" Lena nodded. Life can be funny that way. For a moment, he did not know what to say. Reached for a folder on his desk, opened it, then stopped halfway. The folder contained performance reports and budgets, but none of it made sense against what he had just learned. He set it down and looked at her. "You know, when I offered you that foolish challenge about $100 million, I thought I was mocking a stranger. Now, it seems you deserve more of this company than anyone else here, including me." Lena gave a soft laugh. "I did not fix it for a prize. I fixed it because I still care for what I built. Most of us never stop caring for what we once made." Ethan walked to the window again, watching the storm ease into a soft drizzle outside. He took a deep breath, turned, and faced her again. "Still, promises are promises," he said, trying to smile. "I cannot hand you $100 million, but I can give you something better. A seat in this company that matches your mind." She shook her head gently. "I do not need power. I am happy as I am." "You saved Sterling Innovations," he said. "You deserve recognition." "I did what was right," she said simply. He looked into her calm eyes, searching for words. Something in his chest tightened. Not from pride, but from meaning. "You have changed this place, Lena. You have changed me." She looked away, shy for the first time. "Maybe you were ready to change. I just helped you see it." When the system settled and the staff cheered, Ethan stood quietly beside her. The lights reflected across the glass walls, shining softly on their faces. For the first time, Ethan Cole felt something deeper than triumph. It was connection, quiet and sure, like the company had just gained not only stability but heart. Lena picked up her bag and smiled. He knew that smile would stay with him longer than any success he had ever known.